So let's start with the new chapter, that is your digestive physiology. As we have discussed in the previous class about the monogastric, we have differentiated between the monogastric physiology and polygastric physiology. Monogastric physiology, as per the discussion with our HOD, head of the department. So I have to take your monogastric physiology, and Dr. Ambika sir will take the. Means initially we had the conversation that I have to take the monogastric, and Ambika sir will take the polygastric physiology. But now the decision has been changed, so I'll take entire digestive physiology. So we should run fast now. Okay. So in the previous class, we have discussed about the monogastric. Monogastric means it is only related to the single stomach, whereas the polygastric means more than one chamber or one compartment. We have already discussed that the polygastric animals, they are having the like your ruminants animals like cow, sheep, buffalo, goat. They are having the rumen, reticulum, omasum, abomasum. So four compartments are there. So that's why they are known as the polygastric animals. And these rumens are mostly known as the fermentation vat or fermentation chamber. It's because the fermentation is going on, and whatever and why these animals are known as the polygastric. These animals are known as the ruminant animal because they are ruminating are chewing the cud. I will tell in detail in the polygastric physiology when it will be discussed. I will tell one by one. Okay. Entire process, the fermentation, fermentative digestion of carbohydrate, proteins, so all the entire topic will be discussed. Okay. So now we have to focus on the monogastric physiology. In this part, we have to discuss about the neural regulations of, yes.
Ma'am, one student is waiting out from 5 minutes, asking to join.
Okay. So in this topic, we'll discuss about the neural regulation of the GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. As you know, the digestive system means it has the process of the breakdown of the complex food particles into their simpler form, so that they can be absorbed into the blood through the intestinal villi, and it should be entered into the blood circulation. So in this neural regulation of the gastrointestinal tract, and as you know, that will be started from the oral cavity, like the GI tract is your mouth, your oral cavity, esophagus, stomach, then small intestine, large intestine. So these GI tracts are regulated by the nervous system. So that's why I told the neural regulation of gastrointestinal tract. Okay. And also we will discuss about the several gastrointestinal secretions, accessory digestive glands and digestive organs which help in the process of the digestions, like we have to discuss about the salivary glands. We have to discuss about the pancreas and their secretion from the pancreas, that is your pancreatic secretion, gastric secretions, hepatic secretions, intestinal secretions. All the secretions which are mostly related to these digestive systems will be discussed. So they are generally known as this liver, the pancreas, the salivary glands. They are known as the accessory digestive glands because they are helpful for the in the process of digestion. Okay. So first come to this enteric nervous system. So what do you mean by the enteric nervous system? As you know, all the systems, they are regulated by the means the GI tract. They are regulated by the means autonomic nervous systems as well as the enteric nervous system. This is a unique feature in the you can say in the digestive physiology. That is a unique feature. That is your enteric nervous system. You can say it is also known as the intrinsic nervous system. Clear? So these enteric nervous systems, they are presence of 10 to 100 millions of such type of neurons present in the gut wall. Okay, and these systems are extended from the esophagus up to the anus. Okay, you will find this enteric these intrinsic nervous systems are extended from the esophagus up to the anal region. Okay, so what does it mean? This nervous system, this is a unique feature which we are getting in the digestive physiology. It is also known as the, according to the neurologist, this enteric nervous system. You must have heard about the sympathetic, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and but this nervous system is a unique feature. So that's why I'm telling It is generally, according to the neurologists, these nervous systems are referred as the second brain in gut, gut, gut. Okay, so this is a unique feature, and these are the nervous systems are arranged in the form of plexus. So that's why these enteric nervous systems, yeah, the intrinsic nervous system, they are classified into two plexus. If we go through the cross-sectional view, if we see the cross-sectional of the gut wall, yeah, the stomach, yeah, the intestine, they are having the four layers. Can you tell one by one? You must have read in your anatomy.
Mucosa, submucosa, muscularis
Yes.
serosa.
Yes, if we'll take the cross section, then you will get from the outermost to the inner side. That is, the inner side is your mucosa, followed by the second layer is your submucosa, third layer is your muscular layer, and the fourth one, that is the outermost layer, is your serosal layer. Okay, so layer of tissue are present one by one. So innermost layer is your mucosa, then mucosa again composed of the epithelial layer. Below the epithelial layer, there is presence of the lamina propria, and below the lamina propria, there will be presence of the muscularis mucosa. Okay, so this mucosa, in case of intestine, they are folded into the finger-like a projection, generally known as the, you can say that is the villi. Okay, which is helpful for the absorption process. So mucosa, in case, so these mucosa are having different segments. Like your intestine, they are folded to finger-like projection. They are known as villi. In case of the gastric mucosa, if you take the cross section of the stomach, and you will find the gastric, this mucosa, there will be having the invagination to form a gastric pit. I will tell in the gastric secretions. Okay. So these are the layer present one by one. That is, the first layer is your innermost layer is your mucosa, then followed by the submucosa. This submucosa contains the blood vessels, they contain the lymphatic vessel, they contains the nerve fiber, and below the submucosa there is presence of two muscular layer, that is your outer longitudinal muscle layer and inner circular muscles layer, and the outermost layer is your serosal layer. Okay, so these enteric nervous system, they are scattered in between these layers. Okay, so that's why I have discussed first that having the four segments, yeah, the four layers, you have four different types of tissue in the gut wall. Thereafter we have to discuss about this myenteric plexus and the submucosal plexus, because this enteric nervous system, yeah, the intrinsic nervous system, they are mainly present in the form of plexus, and these plexus are classified as it has been shown in the slide, that is submucosal plexus, also known as the Meissner's plexus. First one is your submucosal plexus, yeah, the other name is your Meissner's plexus. Second one is your myenteric plexus, yeah, it is also known as the Orbeck's plexus. Okay, so as the name indicates, the submucosal plexus, that means it is present in between the in the submucosal layer. Okay, so submucosal plexus, also known as the Meissner plexus, they are situated in the, yeah, they are scattered in the which layer? In the submucosal layer. Okay, but whereas the myenteric plexus, yeah, the Orbeck's plexus, they are generally present in between the outer longitudinal and the inner circular muscles layer. Okay, so you can see in this particular slide, this is the gastric epithelium, this is the epithelial layer, and this is the formation of the submucosal plexus having the this enteric nervous system. They are having the three neurons. They are classified, they are having three neurons. First is your sensory neuron, second one is your interneuron, and third one is the motor neuron. You may get the objective like the location of the myenteric plexus, yeah, location of the submucosal plexus. Up to this you can get. Okay, so is submucosal plexus, they are confined to the submucosal layer. They are mainly concerned for the secretion parts are controlled by the submucosal plexus. And remember, this enteric nervous system, they may act independently without any help from the central nervous system. Okay, so that's why they are also known as the second brain of gut. That means they can act independently without any help from outer side, and they regulate the gastrointestinal activity. They regulate the gastrointestinal motility. They regulate the the gastrointestinal secretions. Okay, so that's why it is known as the second brain of gut. Clear? So this enteric nervous system classified into two plexus. That is, the plexus means the group of neurons present. Okay, that is in the form of plexus. One is your multiplexus that is present in between the outer and inner circular muscle layer. Whereas the submucosal plexus, they are mostly confined to the submucosal layer. And if you differentiate between this multiplexus and submucosal plexus, besides their location, their main function is submucosal plexus are mainly concerned for the secretion, intestinal secretion. They are mainly concerned for the local blood flow. Whereas the multiplexus, they are mainly concerned for the gastrointestinal motility, yeah, movement. So they regulate the multiplexus, they regulate the GI activity. They may increase the intensity of the contraction. They may increase the rate of rhythm of the contraction. They may increase the, you can say, the velocity of conductions. So that's why they are generally concerned for, they are generally means multiplexes are generally concerned for the GI motility, that is your gastrointestinal motility, yeah, movement. Okay, so these in this picture you can see there are a group of neurons, this type of neurons. Here is the also multiplexes, they are also having neurons. Besides this, as I have discussed, this ENS, they can act independently without any help from the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah, they may also act in coordination with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Clear? And as you know, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, in case of digestive physiology, when we are mainly concerned for the digestive part, then the sympathetics means these nervous systems are mostly inhibitory in nature, whereas the parasympathetic nervous system are excitatory in nature, means it will regulate, increases the GI activity, gastrointestinal activity. It may increases the gastric secretion. It may, when the parasympathetic nervous system come into action, it may increase the, through the secretion of acetylcholine. It may increase the secretion of gastric juice. It may increases the secretion of the intestinal secretion. It may increase the gastrointestinal motility. So most of the time these are excitatory in nature, whereas the sympathetic nervous system, they are mostly inhibitory in nature. So what does it mean? The parasympathetic nervous system, you can say, they are sending their preganglionic fiber to the submucosal plexus, as well as they are sending their means a nerve to the myotonic plexus as well. Okay, so why it is the preganglionic fiber? And whereas the sympathetic nervous system, they are mostly the postganglionic fiber. As you know, sympathetic are by origin thoracolumbar in nature, yeah, craniosacral in nature. Sympathetic nervous systems are craniosacral in origin, yeah, thoracolumbar in origin. My voice is audible? My voice is audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then tell me. The sympathetics, they are by origin, they are thoracolumbar, yeah, they are craniosacral.
Craniosacral.
नहीं, sympathetic are thoracolumbar in nature, in origin, sorry, in origin. Thoracolumbar means, you can see this slide, the sympathetic system. This you will read in your nervous system. Okay, so here is the sympathetic innervation to the GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. It will be supplied to the esophagus, supplied to the stomach. They are supplied to the
Excuse
intestine
me,
as
ma'am.
well. Okay,
Ma'am, can you set the screen to full screen mode? Actually, it appears blurred.
what I'm not getting you.
Ma'am, the screen, ma'am, the letters in the slide are appear blurred.
Black.
Yes, ma'am. It appears
Okay,
blurred.
you just listen to me. There might be some network issue. You just listen to me. Pictures are visible. Pictures are visible.
Ma'am, actually, ma'am, not clearly, ma'am. Ma'am, can you set it to full screen mode, slideshow mode?
Just a minute. Okay, just listen to me. I will send you the PPT. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So in this sympathetic innervation, they are by origin thoracolumbar, means they originated from the T5. They are cervical, thoracic, lumbar spinal cords are there. Hai. So they will be originated from the T5 segment spinal cord to L2 segments of the spinal cord. Then the preganglionic fiber crosses the cervical ganglion. Here is the superior cervical ganglion is there, and the preganglionic fiber will be originated from the T5 to L2 segments of the spinal cords, and after crossing this ganglia, when it will be supplied to the stomach here, the intestine, that will be the post ganglionic fiber. That's why the picture, okay, I am trying, just a minute. Okay, leave this. In this, so that's why I have discussed that in case of the sympathetic, they are mostly the post-ganglionic fiber will be supplied to the both the plexus, that is the mindary plexus as well as the submucosal plexus. Whereas in case of the parasympathetic, they are by origin craniosacral in origin. You can see this particular slide, the parasympathetic innervation, they are originated, that is the preganglionic fibers. So that's why I have mentioned here, in case of the enteric nervous system, the parasympathetic, in case of parasympathetic innervation, the preganglionic fiber will be supplied to both the plexus. That is, it is also regulating the myenteric plexus, it is also regulating the submucosal plexus. Always remember, the enteric nervous system, yeah, the intrinsic nervous system, which mostly act as the second brain of gut, that mostly acted without any help from the sympathetic and parasympathetic. They can regulate the GI activity, gastrointestinal activity. Yeah, they also in coordination, act in the coordination with the sympathetic and parasympathetic. They also regulating the activity. That's why this picture is particularly showing how it is regulating this particular activity. Sympathetic, that will also they send their nerve fiber to the both the plexus, mindary plexus as well as the submucosal plexus. So that means the sympathetic also regulating the GI activity. Similarly, the parasympathetic nervous system, they also sending their innervation to the mindary plexus as well as to the your submucosal plexus. So indirectly, they also helpful for the GI activity. So it is all total about the enteric nervous system. You may get that what is the difference between this mindary plexus and the submucosal plexus. Okay, you may get the in the objective part that mindary plexus are known as the orbex plexus. They are mainly confined. They are confined within the outer longitudinal and inner circular muscle layer, and they are mostly concerned for the GI motility, gastrointestinal motility. And these neuron, what we have discussed, the enteric neurons, they are having the this enteric nervous system, that is the ENS, they are having three neurons, that is your sensory neurons, interneurons, and the motor neurons. Okay, and these motor neurons in the axon terminals, from these motor neurons, that terminals are modified some into a varicosities. That varicosities contains most of the neurotransmitter inside it. Okay, so depending on the excitatory neurotransmitter, it will regulate the activity, means increases the activity. And if the varicosities will be releasing the inhibitory neurons, inhibitory neurotransmitter, then that may inhibit the GI activity. So it totally depends upon the neurotransmitter secreted from the varicosity. Should I repeat? Should I repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
Should I repeat? Tell me.
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
to complete.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So these neurons, nothing else, this ENS, they consist of the sensory, like your efferent nerve fiber, you must have heard. And so all this nervous system will be covered in the nervous physiology. So these ENS, they are containing the sensory neurons. They are also having sensory neurons. They are also having the motor neurons. They are having the interneurons. Interneurons is in between the sensor and the motor neurons. And in case of this motor neurons in ENS, the axon terminals are modified to certain bulb-like structure, like which is known as the varicosity. Like in the neuromuscular transmission, they are having the synaptic bulb like this. In case of this ENS, the motor neurons, instead of directly attaching to the receptor, they are modified to the axon terminals are modified to some swollen knob-like structure that is known as the varicosities. And this varicosity contains so many neurotransmitter inside it, like acetylcholine, norepinephrine, ATP, serotonin, cholecystokinin, substance P, VIP, somatostatin, leuencephalin, bombacin. So many neurotransmitters are stored inside the varicosities. Depending upon the nature of the neurotransmitter, the gastrointestinal activity are regulated. That means the varicosity, suppose it secretes acetylcholine, then it will be excitatory in nature. So that means the all the activity, that is GI activity, gastrointestinal activity, will be enhanced. If the varicosities, the neurotransmitter is secreted like your nitric oxide, like your ATP, then they are inhibitory in nature. So that's why if that neurotransmitter will be secreted from that motor neurons is nitric oxide, for example, then that will inhibit the GI activity. What we have discussed, multiplexers, suppose for example, if I'll ask, multiplexers are mainly concerned for movement. Suppose the motor neurons, that varicosities which are present in the axon terminals, that contains the acetylcholine, and that acetylcholine has been secreted, then what will happen to that multiplexers will regulate, what will be the function of the multiplexers at that time? Suppose the neurotransmitter is SCH, acetylcholine, then what will happen? बेटा फिर से एक बार लिंक आएगा, फिर से लिंक आएगा, ठीक, what will happen?
Increase motility.
Yes, multiplexers are very good. Multiplexers are regulating the movement, and acetylcholine are excitatory in nature. And if this acetylcholine will, this neurotransmitter will be secreted, definitely it will increases the GI motility and gastrointestinal movement. Suppose I will ask the submucosal plexus, the motor neurons are present in the submucosal region, and the submucosal plexus are mainly concerned for the secretion, gastrointestinal secretion. And if the neurotransmitter is secreted from the vasoactive intestinal peptide, yeah, adenosine triphosphate, then what will happen to the submucosal plexus? It will decrease the secretions. So that's why I have discussed this total types of, so many neurotransmitters are stored inside the varicosities. Instead of attaching directly to the gland, that will be modified to a nerve-like structure. Is like that of in case of neuromuscular transmission, the neural muscle, there is a presence of the synaptic cleft. Then before that, there are the synaptic vesicles are there, and these synaptic vesicles contain the neurotransmitter like this. The motor neurons, they are also having the varicosities, varicosities, varicosities. Okay, so this is all about the enteric nervous system. Next, we will move to the gastrointestinal hormones. These questions will definitely will be asked in your exam. GI hormone, gastrointestinal hormones. Okay, because whenever we'll discuss about the gastric secretion, these hormones will be we will discuss about these hormones. When we'll discuss about the pancreatic secretion, hormones will be discussed. So first we should know different types of hormones which are secreted from the different enteroendocrine cells. Just a minute. So these GI hormones, gastrointestinal hormones, they are secreted from the enteroendocrine cells. As you know, the hormones, endocrine cells means they are secreting the hormones. Okay, and these are secreted directly into the blood circulation, and through this blood circulation, it reaches the target organs, and thereafter the effect will be there. Okay, so these gastrointestinal hormones which are secreted from the enteroendocrine cells, and these endocrine cells are again, they are scattered in the stomach, in the intestine. So these hormones are having different functions. Okay, generally it is classified into three types based on their chemical nature. In the books you will not, you will never get this type of classification, but I have downloaded it from the net, on from the net. So that's why I am showing the particular slide having the classification according to their, yeah, based upon their chemical nature. That is, one is your gastrin family, second one is your secretin family, and others. And some books they are saying the gastrin, the secretin, they are having the motilin, somatostatin, etc., etc. Okay, so according to the chemical natures, they are classified into three category. You can say the gastrin family, the secretin family, and others. Okay, and these gastrin family, they contain the gastrin and the cholecystokinin. But remember, their function is different. But according to their chemical nature, because they are the regulatory peptides. The GI hormones are nothing but they are the regulatory peptides and regulates the different function in the GI tract. So they are classified into three types. In this gastrin family, they are having two hormones are there. One is your first one is your gastrin, and second one is your cholecystokinin. So first come to the gastrin hormones. What is gastrin hormones? As you know, the hormones, they are secreted from the endocrine cells, and these endocrine cells should be present in the stomach, yeah, present in the intestine. Some are, we are saying that these hormones are secreted from the duodenal mucosa. Some hormones they are secreted from the jejunal mucosa. Some hormones they are secreted from a gastric glands. So like this gastrin is a hormone, is a peptide hormones that will be secreted from the G cell. Capital G, that is your endocrine cells. Now the question is, where is the actual location of these G cells? The gastrin hormones, which is secreted from the G cell, and it will regulate the gastric activity. The G cells are located in a pylori gland. That is a one type of gastric gland. I will discuss in the gastric secretion. There are so many. Generally, they are categorized into two types of gastric glands. One is your cardiac glands, oxyntic glands. The second one is your pylori glands. These glands contains the G cells. G cell. G for gastrin. So these hormones, the gastrin hormones, they are secreted from the G cells, and they regulate the different gastrointestinal gastric activity. Like these gastrin hormones, as you know, they are peptide, means they are having different names. Like your mini gastrin, they are classified as the mini gastrin. They are classified as the big gastrin. They are also classified as the big gastrin. That means these hormones, they contain the amino acid G17. Mini-gastrin means G14. 14 indicates the 14 number of amino acids linked by the peptide bonds. Big gastrin, they are having the G17. They are designated as G17, and the 17 means the number of amino acids. Okay, the number itself indicates the number of amino acids linked by the peptide bonds. Okay, so that's why these are peptide hormones. Yeah, you can say that they are the regulatory peptides secreted from the endocrine cells. Clear? So these gastrins are classified as the mini gastrin, having 14 number of amino acids. They are also classified as the big gastrin, having 17 number of amino acids. They are classified as big gastrin. They are having the 34 amino acids. Okay. Now they are secreted from the, we have read that their location, we have read about their composition, means they contain the number of amino acids. Now the third thing is, what is the function of these gastrin hormones? These gastrin hormones are regulating Sorry. So gastrin hormones, they are mainly concerned for the secretion of the gastric acid. Gastric juice contain the gastric acid. That means this gastrin hormone secreted from the G cell that will stimulate the another cell present in the gastric glands for the production of acid. Okay, so gastrin, or what is the function of gastrin? The gastrin will stimulate the oxantic cells, the parietal cells for the production of the hydrochloric acid. Number one, gastrin also stimulates the another cells present in a gastric glands to stimulate for the production of pepsinogen. Okay, cheap cells for the secretion of the pepsinogen. Second thing, gastrin is a hormone. It's also regulating the gastric emptying. Okay, so gastrin is a hormone which is required for the gastric emptying. It also increases the gastric motility. Gastrin hormones, so different functions are there. So first one is the most primary thing is the main function of this gastrin hormone is to stimulate the oxantic cells for the secretion of the hydrochloric acid, HCl, hydrochloric acid. So it is mainly concerned for the secretion of the gastric juice, which are heavily, highly acidic in nature. It stimulates the chief cells for the production of pepsinogen. It stimulates the gastric motility. This gastrin hormones also it increases the motility, so it increases the gastric emptying process also, and it regulates the having the trophic action over the gastric mucosa. Okay, so these are different function of these gastrin hormones. Now the thing is, if there are so many causative factors which regulates the G cells for the production of the gastrin hormones. So what are the causative factors? Now if once the food bolus reaches the stomach, then there will be distension of the stomach will be there. The stretch receptor will be activated. Then there will be G cell will be automatically activated for the production of the hormone gastrin. Clear? So first thing is when there will be distension of the stomach, then the G cell will be stimulated for the production. All the cells, endocrine cell, they should get some stimulating factors, some stimulation. After that, that will release the their content, hormones. Clear? So for the G cell, the first and foremost thing is that there will be the distension of the stomach, that will causes the activation of the stretch receptors are present there, that will causes the activation of the stretch receptor, and that will stimulate the G cells for the production of the gastrin. Besides this, some types of your protein, if your diet contain the protein in nature, and this protein diet having the phenylalanine, this particular amino acid, then that also stimulates the G cells for the production of the gastrin. And also if there will be calcium content will be there, that will also stimulate the G cells for the production of the gastrin. Clear? So first thing is the stomach should be distended. So when there will be presence of any food material inside the stomach, then there will be automatically G cell will be activated, then that will secrete the gastrin hormone, then gastrin in turn enters the blood circulation, and it will reach the oxantic cells, reach the chief cells to produce the hydrochloric acid, to produce the pepsin, and so therefore it will be helpful for the secretion of the gastric juice. Clear? Besides this stimulating factor, there are also certain inhibitory factors that will also inhibit the activity of the gastrin. So what are the types of the inhibitory factor? Now first is the, if there will be presence of other hormone, like the different hormones are there, like your secretin, like your VIP, vasoactive intestinal peptide, GIP, gastric inhibitory peptides. This type of hormone, they are generally inhibit the secretion of the gastrin. So if the gastrin hormone will not be produced, then there will be no production of gastric juice, which is rich in the acid, hydrochloric acid, because gastrin is a main stimulant for the production of the gastric acid. Clear? So regulation of this gastric secretion, gastrin secretion are regulated by your calcium content in the diet, your neural regulation also. If there will be vagal stimulations are there, so vagal stimulation, the neural regulation, that also increases the gastrin secretion, and also the particular type of your amino acid, like your phenylalanine, tryptophan, that also increases the gastrin secretion. and also the distension of the stomach and the activation of the stretch receptor, that will also stimulate the G cell for the production of the gastrin hormone. Definitely we get one question from these gastrointestinal hormones. Next come to the cholecystokinin. This is also belong to the family gastrin family. Previously it was known as CCK-PZ. You must have read in your inter that CCK-PZ, that is cholecystokinin pancreogymin. But now we are generally telling that they are both these two hormones are combined to form one hormone, that is your cholecystokinin. They are having the different numbers of amino acid. They are having the different forms are there, like CCK3, CCK8, CCK12, CCK33. Like this, they are also, this number indicates the number of amino acids. Okay. Now the thing is, where it is produced. Where is it produced? The cholecystokinin, like the gastrin hormones, which is produced from the G cell, and the G cells are present in the which gland? The pylori gland, and present in the stomach. Whereas the CCK, cholecystokinin, they are secreted from the I cell. This is again I am saying that G cell, I cell, S cell, L cell, K cell, M cell. So these are the endocrine cells. So that these endocrine cells are scattered throughout the stomach and the intestine and secreting the hormones and regulating the gastrointestinal activity. If you write that the gastrin hormone secreted from the I cells of the pylori gland, then it is totally wrong. So you have to specifically mention about the specific cell, that is your G cell. Like this, the cholecystokinin, these hormones are secreted from their cell. Now it is secreted from the I cell, I for ice cream. So I cells of the, now the location is the duodenal and jejunal mucosa. So these endocrine cells are scattered in the duodenal and jejunal mucosa. So cholecystokinin is a hormone which is secreted from the I cells of the duodenal and jejunal mucosa, having different number of amino acid, like having 3 number of amino acid, 8 number of amino acid, 33 number of amino acid, varying in their number of amino acids. And when they will be secreted? Now once the food, always remember, whenever we are taking a food, suppose you are taking in the breakfast the bread, that after getting into the oral cavity, after thoroughly mixing with the salivary juice secreted from the salivary gland, now the bread या chapati या roti has been converted to a bolus form. So that is known as the food bolus. So this food bolus, when it enters the stomach and when it is present on the stomach, in the stomach, thereafter there will be secretion of the gastric juice, and these gastric juice are highly acidic in nature because of secretion of the hydrochloric acids. Okay, so they are partial digestion of the you can say the semi digestion of the this food bolus will be there. And when this food bolus, through the relaxation of the pyloric sphincter, when it enters the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine is your duodenum. When it enters the duodenum, you cannot say that the food bolus has been reached in the duodenum. Now it has been converted to chyme, chyme. Clear? What is the difference between the food bolus and the chyme? Say yes or no. Hello. Achha. So
Yes, ma'am.
suppose in the breakfast you are taking the biscuit, bread. Okay. After that, when it enters the oral cavity, when you are chewing the food, once the chewing process has been started, thereafter there will be secretion of the saliva. Okay, from the salivary gland. Then there will be thoroughly a coating will be present over the food, and it will be converted to a bolus form, that is known as food bolus. Now the food has been converted to food bolus so that it can be easily swallowed. Okay, if you are taking the chapati and as such, can it be swallowed as such into the stomach? So it has to be converted to the food bolus, and that will be carried out by the salivary juice secreted from the salivary gland. So when the food bolus reaches the stomach, after that what will happen? The stomach contains the what I've discussed. Once the stomach has been distended, okay, but distended when the food enters the stomach, okay, Now, when the food bolus enters the stomach, there will be secretion of gastric juice, and it will be causes the partial breakdown of the food bolus, and there will be partial breakdown of the food will be there, and that will be when it enters the stomach, enters the intestine, the duodenum. It will be known as the chyme. You cannot say the food bolus has been reached. You have to say the chyme has entered the duodenum. Clear? So food bolus has been converted in the gastric, in the stomach, by the action of the gastric juice. So that's why I have mentioned that semi-digestion process has been carried out inside the stomach. And when the semi-digestion process of that food enters the duodenum, that has been converted to chyme. Clear? Chyme. Okay. So my main thing is to discuss about this CCK. So CCK is secreted from the eye cells of the duodenal and the jejunal mucosa, and CCK will be stimulated, means eye cell will be stimulated when there will be any fatty substances will be there, when there will be any protein substances will be there in the duodenum, inside the intestine. Okay, thereafter the eye cell will be stimulated. Always remember, the endocrine cells has to get any stimulus. Thereafter they will be secreting their hormones. So for the G cells, I have already discussed the distinction, the neural regulation, vagus regulations, the calcium content, and besides this also there will be secretion of the, if there will be proteins like substances like phenylalanine, tryptophan will be there, then that also stimulates the G cells for the production of gastrin. Likewise, cholecystokinin will be secreted once when there will be any fatty substances, any protein substances will be there in the intestine, then the eye cells will be producing the cholecystokinin. And then what is the function of this CCK? Now CCK will causes the contraction of the gallbladder. CCK, cholecystokinin, is a hormone. It is required for the contraction of the gallbladder and expulsion of bile. The main function is to contraction of the gallbladder and expulsion of the bile. And CCK, unlike that of the gastrin hormone, it will prevent the gastric emptying. CCK will never, it will hasten the gastric emptying process. It will decrease the gastric emptying process. And CCK also, it will main function is to contract the gallbladder, and it is to helpful for the expulsion of the bile. And second one, cholecystokinin is the hormone. It also stimulates the acinar cells present in the pancreas for the production of the pancreatic enzyme. There are so many things we have to discuss. That pancreas, they are having the acinar cells, they are having the ductal cells, ductal epithelial cells. Okay. So these pancreas, the acinar cells, are mainly required for the secretion of the pancreatic enzymes, whereas the centroacinar cells and the ductal cells, they are secreting the water and electrolyte. So CCK main function is to stimulate the acinar cells only, pancreatic acinar cells, for the production of secretion of pancreatic enzyme. And as you know, there are different types of enzymes present in the pancreatic juice, like your pancreatic amylase, pancreatic proteolytic enzymes like trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, elastase, collagenase, lipase, lipolytic enzymes, like for example lipase, colipase, etc., etc. These enzymes are helpful for the digestion of your protein as well as the digestion of the lipids. Clear? So that's why the CCK, they always acts in a positive feedback manner. What does it mean? Positive feedback manner means when the protein substances present, for example, when the protein substances enters the duodenum, then the eye cells will be stimulated for the production of the cholecystokinin. Now what cholecystokinin do? Cholecystokinin enters the blood circulation, okay, and through the blood circulation it has to reach the pancreas. Now it will stimulate the which cells? The pancreatic acinar cells for the production of the pancreatic enzyme. I have discussed. Suppose the duodenum contain the protein. Duodenum contain the protein that will stimulate the cells, eye cell, for the CCK. Now CCK enters the blood circulation, and through the blood circulation it reaches the pancreas. Then thereafter it will stimulate the pancreatic acinar cells for the production of the pancreatic enzymes. So which enzyme will be secreted for the digestion of the protein? These are fundamentals I am asking.
Pancreatic polypeptide.
Yes, yes, proteolytic enzymes for the protein digestion. Lipolytic enzymes are not necessary, है ना? अरे हाँ कि नहीं कौन के बुझी पारछ ना नहीं कि सुनुछ कि नहीं आ तबे कौन जणे दी जणे तीन जणे जमा कहउछ आंसर. So when the proteins are there for the protein digestion, which enzyme is essential? Proteolytic enzyme is essential, है ना? So for that particular reason, the cholecystokinin stimulates the acinar cells for the production of pancreatic enzymes, mainly proteolytic enzymes. अच्छा छोड़ो. For example, if the fatty substances are present, then what will happen? You tell me. If the fatty substances are there, then what will happen to the what is the function of the cholecystokinin? You tell me.
It stimulates the
Soumya
production.
Ranjan, I am asking to Soumya Ranjan. Others mute your audio. Soumya Ranjan, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You just tell me what will be there. If there will be any fatty substances in the duodenum, then what will be happening to the when fatty substance is present in the duodenum, then what will be happening to the cholecystokinin once secreted, then what it causes?
Ma'am, it will secrete the lipid breaking enzymes.
Yes. So you have to say it enters the blood circulation. Yeah, directly it enters the pancreas.
Ma'am, blood circulation.
Hormone means it has to enter the blood circulations. Hormone means it has to enter the blood circulations. है ना? So when the fatty substance, so that's why I have discussed several times, there are some stimulatory factors for the secretion of the particular hormones. Like your cholecystokinin, the stimulating factor here, factor is here. The fatty substances, yeah, any protein nature diet will be there, then that will stimulate for the eye cells for the production of cholecystokinin. Then cholecystokinin in turn stimulates the pancreatic acinar cells for the production of the pancreatic enzyme. So that's why I have given the example. Suppose lipid substances are there, fatty substances in your diet is there, then what will happen? The CCK will be produced. CCK stimulate the pancreatic acinar cells for the production of pancreatic enzymes, which is mainly lipolytic enzymes. So lipase will be there for the degradation of the fatty substances. It will be converted to fatty acid and glycerol. Clear? So the function of this cholecystokinin is the contraction of the gallbladder, expulsion of the bile. Second is it will stimulate the pancreatic acinar cells for the production of the pancreatic enzymes. It will never act on the ductal cells. Remember, cholecystokinin, it will act only the pancreatic acinar cells for the secretion of the pancreatic enzyme. So that's why I mentioned that it acts in a positive feedback manner. Positive feedback manner means when there will be more and more amount of protein and fatty substances will be there, more cholecystokinin will be secreted, and when more cholecystokinin will be secreted means it will stimulate the acinar cells for the production of proteolytic and lipolytic enzyme, and again when through the pancreatic duct, when the pancreatic enzyme enters the duodenum, it will cause the digestion of the protein and fat. So it will act in a positive feedback manner. More amount will be there, more secretion of the CCK. More CCK will be there, then more pancreatic enzymes will be secreted to the duodenum through the pancreatic duct, and it will be helpful for the degradation of the protein and as well as lipid. Clear? Now comes to the next one, that is your secretin. Secretin is the another hormone, and it was first discovered by the two scientists, that is your Bayliss and Starling. Okay, secretin is a hormone that had been discovered by the two scientists. One is your Bayliss and Starling. Starling first discovered the GI hormone, that is your secretin, and it is having 27 amino acids. 27 amino acids, and what is the location? What is the site for the secretion of the secretin? Now it is secreted from the A cell present in the duodenal and jejunal mucosa. Again, duodenal and jejunal mucosa having the S cell, duodenal, jejunal mucosa, they are having so many endocrine cells inside the mucosa. Okay, but the thing is, which hormone has to be secreted, that will totally rely on which type of material enters the duodenum. Clear? So secretin is the hormone which is secreted from the S cells. These S cells are scattered in the duodenal and the jejunal mucosa, and this secretin is the function of this secretin is to, it will stimulate the liver for the hepatic secretion. It will stimulate the hepatic secretion for the secretion of the mostly the water and electrolyte, as well as secretin also stimulates the pancreatic centroacinar cells and as well as the ductal cells for the secretion of the water and electrolyte. Clear? So cholecystokinin, the main function, it is to stimulate the pancreatic acinar cells for the production of pancreatic enzyme, whereas secretin is the hormone which is secreted from the A cell. Then after enters into the blood circulation, it will stimulate the liver as well as it will stimulate the pancreas. So both the secretion, it will stimulating both the secretion. So it will stimulate the secretion from the hepatic cells from the liver and also stimulates the pancreatic centroacinar cells for the secretion of the water and electrolyte. Definitely we get one multiple question from this. Secretin stimulates, first one, it will stimulate the liver for the production of the water and electrolyte. It will stimulate, second one, it will stimulate the pancreatic ductal cells for the secretion of the water and electrolyte. Third one, both of the above. Then what is the correct answer?
Both.
Both.
Yes. So it will generally, the secretin, it will stimulate the mainly the ductal. I'll tell the ductal cells of the liver. The entire topic will be discussed when I'll discuss about the hepatic secretion, the pancreatic secretion. Then you will be clear. Okay. So for now only you have to remember the secretin that will stimulate the ductal cells for the bicarbonate ions, bicarbonate rich secretions from the ductal cells. And also it will stimulate the ductal cells of the liver for the secretion of the water and electrolytes. And second one is, it is the most inhibitor for the secretion of the gastric juice, gastric acid. That is, the secretin inhibits the gastric acid secretion and it will potentiate the action of cholecystokinin. Okay, so what will be the function of the secretin? Now it will stimulate the liver ductal cell as well as the pancreatic ductal cell. It will inhibit the gastric acid secretion. It will stimulate the mainly the, it will stimulating the secretion of it will inhibit the secretion of the gastric juice and gastric acid secretion. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And it stimulates the, it will potentiate the action of cholecystokinin. That means in connection with the cholecystokinin, it also stimulates the secretion of the water and electrolyte. Okay, that's why it will potentiate the action of cholecystokinin. Okay. Did you get my point?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so next class we'll start again after the secretin I have completed. So next class we'll start with the GIP and the remaining intestinal hormones. That part will be covered in your next class. Okay, so what we have discussed now, enteric nervous system. This class we have discussed about the enteric nervous system. So you may get the difference between the mindry plexus and your submucosal plexus, and one objective question from that location of the mindry plexus. Okay, location of the mindry plexus. Now I will ask the question to whom I will ask, he or she has to give the answer. Nobody can leave the group now. Vibhu Sharan, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
There? Okay, tell me what is the location of the mindry plexus?
Ma'am, again, not audible clearly.
What is the location of mindry plexus? Now audible?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Okay, tell me.
Mm,
ଜାଣିଛ ନା ନାଇଁ?
ନା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଆସିବନି।
କ୍ଲାସରେ ଥିଲ?
ୟେସ୍ ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
କ୍ଲାସରେ ଥିଲେ ତ ମୁଁ ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାସ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟିଂରୁ ତ କହୁଛି। ଠିକ ଅଛି ଛାଡ଼। Then Snehasis, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what is the location of Mindtree plexus?
Ma'am, between muscularis, outer longitudinal and inner circular between that.
Mindtree plexus are present in between the outer.
Longitudinal and inner circular
Yes,
in
very good.
muscularis. Ma'am.
Yes, very good. It is also known as
This is known as
Orbex.
Orbex
Good.
plexus.
Okay, very good. Jyoti Krishna, are you there? Jyoti Krishna, are you there? Say yes or no. Jaldi jaldi. Jyoti Krishna present or not? Asutosh?
He is in the meeting. His name is showing.
Achhi na?
Yes, ma'am.
Acha. I'll make him absent. Okay. Debojyoti? Debojyoti?
Yes, ma'am.
Debojyoti Das. Okay,
Yes,
you tell
ma'am.
me what is the difference between Mindtree plexus and submucosal plexus? What is the difference between Mindtree and submucosal plexus? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me. जानिଛ ना नहीं?
No, ma'am.
So location बताओ. Location बताओ. What is the exact location of the submucosal
Mucosal layer.
plexus? Hmm? Acha, can you tell me the histology, the cross-sectional layer of the gut? The cross-sectional layer of the gut wall.
Muscularis, mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, and
Mucosa is outer layer, is the innermost layer. Mucosa
Innermost.
layer is the innermost layer. So in case of the intestine, mucosa are folded into a finger-like projection known as dash.
Villi.
Villi. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you. Just a minute. Divya Ranjan, are you there? Asutosh, Divya Ranjan present or not? Free admission number. Divya Ranjan.
No, ma'am, he is not present.
Rajlakshmi. Rajlakshmi Naik, are you there? Rajlakshmi.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking who are leaving the group. I'll make you absent. So Rajlakshmi, you better tell me the function of.
Ma'am, किसी सुबह जाने.
Yes. Yes. Tell me what happened.
Ma'am, clearly किसी सुबह जाने.
Tell me what is the function of the gastrin hormone. My voice is audible or not?
Gastrin hormone is a yes, ma'am.
Gastrin hormone
it
is
induces the
yes.
it binds the cholecystokinin B receptor. Ma'am?
Your voice is not audible.
Ma'am?
Your voice is not properly audible. Okay.
Ma'am, Ma'am, it's meant the
Rohit Kumar Behra, are you there? Rohit Kumar Behra, are you there? Rohit Kumar, okay.
No, ma'am, he is not there.
Amit Sahu 94 admission number. Amit Sahu,
Ma'am, he is also absent.
Saswat 84.
Yes, ma'am.
Saswat,
Yes, ma'am.
tell me about the function of secretin. About the function of secretin.
Ma'am,
तामने तुम्हें क्लास रे के सुनो ना स्पष्ट एंडोक्राइन सेल लो किछि ना कहलो endocrine cell. What does it mean? Enteroendocrine cells, what does it mean?